Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah,
So today we're tackling a topic that's pretty much on every aspiring tech professional's mind.
right.
How to totally nail those tech interviews, and not just any interviews.
Yeah,
We're talking about those super competitive FNG level roles.
absolutely.
You know, the
I mean,
one
the stakes are high.
exactly where the stakes are high
Yeah,
and you got to bring your A game.
for sure.
So to guide us through this interview battlefield, we're dissecting a fantastic blog post from Algo Academy.
Oh, yeah, that's a great resource.
Right. They always have such insightful content.
Absolutely.
And this particular post is packed with strategies on how to make your past experience really shine.
It's so important.
Because, let's be real,
Yeah.
we've all heard that saying,
Oh, yeah.
show, don't tell.
A million times.
Right. But how do we actually do that?
Right.
Especially in the context of a tech interview where you're nervous,
You're under pressure.
you're trying to remember everything you've ever learned.
Yeah.
You're in the hot seat.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to unpack today.
All right, let's do it.
So let me ask you this.
Sure.
Why do interviewers put so much emphasis on past experience anyway?
Well, it boils down to a few key things.
Okay.
First, past experience serves as proof.
Proof of what?
Proof of your skills.
Okay.
It's one thing to say you can code,
Right.
but it's a whole other level to show that you've actually built something.
Yeah. I mean, anyone can say they're an expert in Python, but
Right.
if you actually used it to solve real problems.
Exactly. So your past projects, your internships, even your personal coding adventures, they all become evidence that you can walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then there's the cultural fit aspect.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Interviewers want to see if you'd thrive in their company's environment.
If you're going to be a good team player,
Exactly.
if you're going to mesh well with their existing team.
Right.
So past experience can offer glimpses into how you approach teamwork, problem solving, communication, all those essential soft skills that are so crucial in a collaborative tech environment.
You know, it's funny because sometimes I feel like when I'm listing projects on my resume,
Yeah.
it just feels so flat.
It's just bullet points.
Like it's just bullet
It
points.
doesn't tell the story.
Exactly. And I know they're important,
Of course.
but how do I make those experiences come alive for the interviewer?
You need to craft a compelling narrative.
On narrative.
Yeah. Think of it like you're the hero in your own tech adventure story,
I love that.
and your past experiences are the exciting chapters.
Okay, I'm listening.
So the first step is to identify those key projects and achievements that really showcase your skills and your passion.
Okay.
Now, this doesn't have to be just traditional jobs,
Oh, that's a relief.
Think about personal coding projects, open source contributions, hackathons, anything that demonstrates your initiative and your ability to learn and grow.
So like that time I built a website for my dog walking business.
Exactly. Or that time you contributed to a cool open source library.
Okay, I'm seeing the bigger picture now.
It's all about painting a picture of who you are as a tech professional, what drives you, and what you're capable of.
And this narrative, this story, it helps the interviewer connect with me on a deeper level, right?
Absolutely. Because it's not just about the technical skills anymore. It's about the person behind the skills.
It's about showing them I'm not just a code monkey. I'm a problem solver, a creative thinker, a passionate learner.
Right. You're showcasing your unique journey and how it's led you to this point.
Okay, I'm totally on board with this storytelling approach.
Good.
But how do I actually structure these stories?
Like, how do I make sure I'm hitting all the right points without rambling on forever?
Well, there's a classic method that comes in handy here.
Okay.
The STAR method.
STAR method.
Yeah, you've probably heard of it.
I have, but to be honest, I'm not sure I fully grasp it.
Okay, so STAR stands for situation, task, action, result.
Okay.
And it's a framework for structuring your interview answers in a clear and concise way.
So it's like a roadmap for my story. Exactly. It helps you stay on track and make sure you're covering all the important details.
Okay, so walk me through it. How does this STAR method work in practice?
All right. Let's imagine the interviewer asks you to tell them about a challenging project you worked on.
Okay.
So you'd start by describing the situation, setting the scene. What was the context? What were the goals of the project? What were the stakes?
Okay, so I might say something like, in my previous role, we were tasked with developing a new mobile app to streamline our customer support process.
Perfect. You've set the stage.
Now what?
Then you move on to the task.
The task, okay.
What was your specific role in the project? What were you responsible for?
So I could say, my role was to design and implement the back-end API that would power the app's core features.
Great. Now we know what you were up against.
Okay, what's next?
Then comes the action, the juicy part.
The action, okay.
This is where you describe what you actually did, the steps you took, the challenges you overcame.
So I might say, I researched different API architectures, chose the most suitable one for our needs, and then wrote clean, efficient code to implement it.
Awesome. You're showing them your technical skills in action.
And finally,
The grand finale, the result.
the result.
What was the outcome of your efforts? How did your work impact the project, the team, the company?
So I could wrap it up by saying, the API I built was successful in handling thousands of requests per second, and it significantly improved our customer satisfaction ratings.
Fantastic. You've told a complete story, you've highlighted your skills, and you've shown the impact of your work.
And I did it all using the STAR method.
Yeah, you're a star storyteller now.
Haha, I like that.
But there's one more crucial ingredient to make those star stories truly shine.
Okay, what's that?
Quantification.
Quantification.
Yeah, numbers.
Numbers.
Don't just tell them you improved something. Show them by using concrete metrics.
Give me an example.
So instead of saying, I made the app faster, you could say, I optimized the app's performance, reducing load times by 50%. Oh, I see.
Or instead of saying, I wrote a lot of code, you could say, I wrote over 10,000 lines of code, following industry best practices to ensure maintainability and scalability.
Those numbers definitely make it more impactful.
Right. It makes your achievements tangible, memorable, and it shows that you're data-driven, which is a highly valued trait in the tech world.
Okay, I'm sold on the STAR method and the power of numbers.
Good.
But here's a question that's been bugging me.
Go ahead.
What if I'm applying for different roles with different requirements?
Great.
Do I have to tailor my story every time?
Absolutely. A one-size-fits-all approach won't cut it, especially for those competitive FAing roles.
So it's like I'm curating my portfolio for each specific audience.
Exactly. You wouldn't wear the same outfit to a job interview and a wedding, right?
Uh-huh. No, you wouldn't.
So before each interview, really dissect that job description.
Okay.
What are the key skills they're seeking? What challenges will this role face?
Right.
And then you choose experiences from your repertoire that align with those needs. So it's all about showcasing the most relevant skills and experiences for that particular role.
Precisely. It shows the interviewer that you've done your homework, you understand their needs, and you're the perfect candidate to solve their problems.
And speaking of showcasing skills,
Yeah.
what if they're looking for expertise in a specific technology?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a project that uses it,
Great.
but it's like buried deep in my GitHub somewhere.
Haha. Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. How do I bring that to life?
Well, first of all, make sure you can easily access it.
Yeah.
Have a link ready to share if they ask, and then
And then.
be prepared to give a concise walkthrough, you know?
Okay.
Highlight the key aspects, the challenges you faced, and why you chose that particular technology for that project.
So it's like I'm giving them a guided tour of my code.
Exactly. And this is your chance to demonstrate your deeper understanding.
Okay.
Go beyond just the surface level. Talk about the design decisions you made, the trade-offs you considered, and why you think that technology was the best fit for that particular situation.
So it's not just about saying I used React for this project.
Mhm.
It's about saying I chose React because of its component-based architecture and its ability to create dynamic user interfaces.
Exactly. You're showing them that you didn't just follow a tutorial, you actually thought critically about the technology and its applications.
That's so smart. It's like saying, hey, I've got the skills you need, and here's the proof.
Right. You're backing up your claims with concrete examples and demonstrating your technical depth.
Okay, I'm loving these strategies. But even if I have the perfect story and I can explain my tech stack inside and out, what if I just freeze up during the interview?
Nerves are totally normal. Everyone gets them.
But how do I avoid letting those nerves get the best of me?
Practice, practice, practice. The more you rehearse your stories and explanations, the more confident you'll become. And remember, the interviewer is on your side. They want you to succeed.
That's a good point. It's easy to forget that they're not trying to trip me up. They're actually hoping to find a great candidate. Any other tips for staying calm under pressure?
Definitely take some deep breaths before the interview. Visualize yourself succeeding. And remember, it's okay to pause and collect your thoughts if you need to.
Those are great tips. I'm feeling more prepared already. But sometimes I worry about getting so caught up in the technical details that I forget to show my personality.
That's a valid concern. Technical skills are important, but so is your personality and how you'd fit into the team.
So how do I strike that balance between showcasing my technical expertise and letting my personality shine through?
It's all about being authentic and enthusiastic. Let your passion for technology shine through in your stories. Smile, make eye contact, and engage with the interviewer. And don't be afraid to show a little bit of your sense of humor if the opportunity arises.
So it's not about being a robot who just spits out technical jargon. It's about being a human who loves what they do and is excited to share that passion.
Exactly. People hire people they like and connect with, so let your personality shine through and show them why you'd be a great addition to their team.
This has been incredibly helpful. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand how to make my past experience truly shine during those tech interviews. But we've only just scratched the surface, haven't we? There's so much more to unpack when it comes to interview formats, technical questions, and showcasing those all-important soft skills.
You're right, we've got a lot more ground to cover, but I think we've laid a solid foundation for understanding why past experience matters and how to craft a compelling narrative that captivates the interviewer.
I'm ready to dive even deeper. Listeners, stay tuned for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll explore those different interview formats, tackle those tricky technical questions, and show you how to highlight your unique strengths and experiences to land that dream tech job. Okay, so now we're diving into the different types of tech interviews you might encounter. Let's start with behavioral interviews. What's the deal with those? What are they really all about?
Yeah, so behavioral interviews, they're all about understanding how you've handled situations in the past,
Right.
because past behavior is often a good predictor of future behavior.
That makes sense.
So interviewers use these types of questions to gauge your soft skills.
Soft skills, so things like teamwork, communication, problem solving, leadership, all that good stuff.
Exactly. They want to see how you've actually applied those skills in real-world scenarios, not just that you can list them on your resume.
Right, because anyone can say they're a team player or a problem solver.
Yeah, but have you really demonstrated those skills?
So how do I prepare for that? It's not like I can predict the exact questions they're going to ask.
You can't predict the exact questions,
Yeah.
but you can definitely prepare by reflecting on your experiences and identifying those stories that really showcase your strength.
You keep mentioning stories, and I know we talked about the STAR method,
Yes, the STAR method is your best friend for behavioral interviews.
but I'm still a bit fuzzy on how to actually use it effectively.
Okay, so let's break it down with an example. Let's say the interviewer asks, "Tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult teammate."
Ooh, yeah, that's a classic one.
So instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, I've had my fair share of those," you'd use the STAR method to tell a compelling story.
Okay, so walk me through it. How would I use the STAR method to answer that question?
All right, so first you'd set the scene, describe the situation. What was the context? What were the goals of the project? Who were the key players?
Okay, so I might start by saying something like, in my last project, we had a teammate who was consistently missing deadlines and wasn't really pulling their weight.
Perfect. You've set the stage. Now we know there's a conflict.
Okay, so what comes next?
Next, you describe the task, the challenge you faced. You could say, "This was putting a strain on the rest of the team, and we were at risk of falling behind schedule."
Okay, so I'm outlining the problem and the potential consequences.
Exactly. Now the interviewer's hooked. They want to know what you did about it.
Okay, bring on the action.
Right. This is where you shine. What steps did you take to resolve the situation? What specific actions did you take?
So I could say, instead of letting things fester, I decided to have an open and honest conversation with a teammate. I listened to their concerns, offered support, and we worked together to create a more realistic plan.
Right. You're showing initiative, communication skills, and a willingness to collaborate.
Okay, and finally, the result.
Yes, the outcome. How did your actions impact the situation?
So I could wrap up by saying, as a result of that conversation, the teammate felt more supported and their contributions significantly improved. We ended up delivering the project on time and exceeding expectations. Wow. That story really paints a picture of how I handle challenging situations.
Exactly. And it highlights those soft skills that interviewers are looking for.
It's way more impactful than just saying, I'm a good communicator or I'm a team player.
It shows rather than tells.
And I did it all using the STAR method.
You're a star.
Ha!
Thanks.
But what about those technical interviews where they really grill you on your coding knowledge? Those make me nervous.
Yeah, technical interviews can be intense.
It's like they're trying to dissect my brain and see how well it can handle algorithms and data structures.
But remember, they're not designed to be scary.
Okay, that's good to hear.
They're an opportunity to showcase your technical expertise.
Okay, so how do I showcase that expertise without melting into a puddle of anxiety?
Well, first and foremost, you got to know your stuff. Review your past projects thoroughly.
Like really thoroughly.
Yeah, dive deep into the technical details, the technologies you used, the design choices you made, the challenges you faced. Be prepared to explain your code, your approach, and why you made the decisions you made.
So it's not just about remembering what I did, but understanding the why behind it.
Exactly. Why did you choose that particular algorithm? What were the trade-offs? What alternatives did you consider?
Okay, so I need to be able to articulate my thought process and justify my technical decisions.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to admit if you don't know something. It's better to be honest and say, I'm not familiar with that specific framework, but I'm eager to learn, than to try and bluff your way through it.
Okay, that's a relief because honestly, there's so much out there. I can't possibly know everything.
No one expects you to know everything. What interviewers want to see is that you're a quick learner, you're resourceful, and you're passionate about expanding your knowledge.
So it's more about my approach to problem solving and my willingness to learn new things than having every single answer memorized.
Exactly. And speaking of problem solving, be prepared for coding challenges.
Oh yeah, those.
Interviewers love to see how you think on your feet, how you approach a problem, how you break it down into smaller steps, and how you write clean, efficient code.
Any tips for tackling those coding challenges? I tend to freeze up when I'm put on the spot.
First, take a deep breath. Don't panic. It's okay to take a moment to gather your thoughts and plan your approach. And don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions if something's unclear.
So it was okay to say, can you give me an example? Or can you clarify what you mean by that?
Absolutely. It shows that you're thoughtful and that you're taking the time to understand the problem fully. And then think out loud as you code. Explain your reasoning, your thought process, the steps you're taking. It helps the interviewer understand your approach and gives them a chance to offer guidance if you get stuck.
It's like I'm inviting them into my coding journey.
Exactly. Collaboration is key, even in a technical interview.
Okay, this is all making sense. But what about those system design interviews? They seem even more daunting.
System design interviews, yeah, they're a whole other beast.
I haven't had much experience designing large-scale systems, so I'm not sure where to even begin.
Well, system design interviews are less about writing perfect code and more about demonstrating your ability to think big picture and design for real-world scenarios.
Okay, so it's more about architecture and scalability
Yeah.
than specific lines of code.
Exactly. Imagine you're tasked with designing a social media platform like Twitter. You'd need to think about how to handle millions of users, how to store and retrieve massive amounts of data, how to ensure the system is reliable and performant.
Whoa, that's a lot to consider. Where do I even begin to prepare for that kind of an interview?
Start by brushing up on system design principles and architectural patterns. There are some great resources online, and even practicing with a friend can be super helpful.
So I need to shift my thinking from individual lines of code to the overall structure and functionality of the system.
Precisely. Think about how different components interact, how data flows through the system, and how to handle things like load balancing and fault tolerance.
This is making my head spin a bit. Any specific tips for approaching these system design questions during an interview?
Absolutely. First, don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions. Make sure you understand the scope of the problem, the user requirements, and any constraints.
Okay, so it's okay to say something like, are we assuming a global user base? Or what are the performance expectations?
Exactly. It shows that you're thinking critically about the problem and that you're not just jumping into a solution without fully understanding the requirements.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the technical details and forget about the bigger picture. What else should I keep in mind?
Think out loud. Explain your thought process as you go, even if you're not entirely sure of the solution. Talk through different approaches, weigh the pros and cons, and be open to suggestions from the interviewer.
So it's more about demonstrating my problem-solving abilities and my ability to think critically than having a perfect solution memorized.
Exactly. They want to see how you approach complex problems, how you analyze trade-offs, and how you collaborate to find the best solution.
This is so helpful. I'm starting to feel less intimidated by those system design interviews. But even if I nail the technical aspects, there's still that element of cultural fit. How do I know if a company's culture is right for me? And how do I convince them that I'm a good fit for their team? So we've talked about showcasing our technical skills, crafting those star stories, and even navigating those tricky system design questions. But it doesn't end when you walk out of the interview room, right?
Absolutely not. The follow-up is just as important. It's your chance to really solidify that connection with the interviewer and leave a lasting positive impression.
So it's not just a formality, it's another opportunity to sell myself and stand out from the crowd. What are the key ingredients for a killer follow-up?
First and foremost, send a personalized thank you email within 24 hours of the interview. And I mean truly personalized, not just a generic thanks for your time message.
So how do I make it stand out?
Mention something specific that you genuinely enjoyed discussing during the interview. Maybe it was a particular technology they're using, or maybe you connected with the interviewer over a shared passion for open source contributions.
Oh, I like that. It shows I was paying attention and that I'm genuinely interested in the company and the role. What if there were any questions I couldn't fully answer during the interview, or if I think of additional relevant experiences afterward? Is it okay to bring those up in the thank you email?
Absolutely. It's a great opportunity to provide more context, clarify any points, or even share a relevant link to a project you discussed.
So it's a chance to add value and keep the conversation going.
Exactly. You could say something like, I was thinking about our discussion on cloud computing, and I remembered a project where I migrated our entire infrastructure to AWS, which significantly reduced our hosting costs. I'd be happy to share more details if you're interested.
That's a perfect example. It shows initiative and a willingness to go the extra mile.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from crafting compelling narratives to tackling technical questions and even mastering the art of the follow-up. I feel much more prepared to tackle those tech interviews now.
It's been great diving deep with you. Remember, the key is to be authentic, prepared, and enthusiastic. Show them who you are, what you can do, and why you'd be an amazing addition to their team.
And to our listeners, as you embark on your tech job search journey, what's one final piece of wisdom you want to leave them with?
I'd say never stop learning. The tech world is constantly evolving, so embrace challenges, be persistent, and never underestimate the power of your unique journey.
That's inspiring. And remember, you don't have to navigate this journey alone. Algo Academy is an incredible resource for mastering those technical skills, practicing for those tricky interview questions, and building the confidence you need to land that dream tech job. We'll be back soon with another deep dive. Until then, happy coding, everyone.